We are 33 days away from the deadline to save this democratic experiment. If you aren't scared for the country right now, you may be watching too many apocalypse movies or playing way too many video games. The corporate media looks at this chaos and sees Joe Biden ahead and Trump disintegrating. I look at it at best and see the biggest, most blatant voter suppression campaign in history, run personally by the President of the United States. I look at this and see the groundwork being laid by Donald Trump to defy his defeat. I look at this and I see enablers in the media, even in the supposed left media, who even after all we have been through, cannot draw a line at violent white supremacists and say, you can call yourself a Proud Boy, but we see you as the racists you are. And at you, we draw a line and won't give you a platform to spread your stink and your danger. And that means we won't accept a president who dances with you. The only place Donald Trump seems to practice social distancing is with racists and fascists who he wants on his side, but don't want to be called out for it. He is the, quote, last racist person we know, least racist person we know, the president once told us. That's why he doesn't condemn the Proud Boys, why he tells them to stand by while we see how the voting goes. And then he tries to wriggle past the obvious racist intent by saying he meant they should stand back and let law enforcement do its job. What job? The job of beating up progressives? The job of terrifying black voters and killing them? The job of plowing through activists? The job of throwing so much muck at our election that it ends up in the courts or in Congress? Not to mention there are organized white supremacy cells within law enforcement that are actively being investigated by the FBI. His FBI. Remember, if this election does get thrown to the courts or Congress, Trump will probably be declared the winner. Of course, there is one way to prevent that, and we know this. To beat him in this election by margins so large that all his lies and mail balloting, all the ones about the mail balloting, all his slander of election officials, all his fascist attacks on the American democratic system, they won't amount to a hill of beans next to the landslide of voters against him. It really is that simple. Now, I want to say a word to my colleagues in the media. And to Joe Rogan specifically, who I know we've had words in the past, but please, you have to hear me on this. This is something that's happening behind the scenes. A lot of conversations with leftists in the media have been talking about this for a long time. I believe deeply in hearing a diversity of voices. We've had conservatives and moderates on this show for debates. Dissent and debate are core values of our politics. But for the next 33 days, we need to be very aware of what Trump is doing. And we need to be diligent and strategic at not doing things that enable him or play into his fascist hands. Dorsey, can we play that clip of Joe Rogan?
The reason why I brought up Gavin is that I think that I have had a couple podcasts with him, and people have had like weird conversations with me about it. And yeah. I've said, this is one of the things that I've said, I was like, look, that guy's mostly fun. Yeah. Mostly fun.
I started this gang called the Proud Boys. And
the Proud Boys?
The Proud Boys.
What's Proud Boys about?
We will kill you. That's the Proud Boys in a nutshell. We will kill you. We look nice. We seem soft. We have boys in our name. But like Bill... I think it's our job to do it. And the cop to turn a blind eye. If you're wearing a MAGA hat, as Sal is right now, Sal's in the studio, folks.
Oh my God, this is Sal Cipolla. Where are you from? I'm here. Wow, you came a long way.
You're wearing a MAGA hat, and some guy with a slightly punk demeanor comes up to you and says, hey, are you Sal or are you pro-Trump? Choke him.
Okay, let's skip back this.
Trust your instincts. Don't listen to what he has to say. Choke him.
Let's skip back to this part.
Throw bricks. Can you call for violence generally? Because I am.
Okay,
Fighting
I think we've seen
solves everything.
You can go and check out that full clip at Vic Berger. He is on Twitter. That was Gavin McInnes. Frankly, Joe Rogan, I'm speaking to you. When you interview quote, your friend, Gavin McInnes, the founder of the white supremacist group Proud Boys, you make it easier for Trump to then act like they are among those good people on the other side. Joe Rogan, these are not good people. Let's call them by their names. The Proud Boys are violent racists. They're white supremacists. They declare it themselves, openly, online, in person, and on the airwaves that allow them to speak, like your show. They get away with it. They even said it. The cops turn a blind eye. They incite and take part in violence and murder. Now, I want to be very clear about this. They have a First Amendment right to speak, as uncomfortable as it may be, at least up to the point that they advocate violence against people. That is the limitation of free speech, inciting violence. Crying fire in a crowded theater is not free speech. Remember, the First Amendment is about keeping the government, keeping hands off of our right to speak, to publish, to protest, and assemble. Let me say that again. Remember that the First Amendment is about the government keeping hands off of our right to speak, to publish, to protest, and assemble. I defend the right of whoever, Proud Boys included, to speak, even though I detest what they say. But the right to speak isn't a right to go on Joe Rogan's show. I hate to call you out, Joe, but this isn't about the Joe Rogan show offering a diversity of views. It's about Joe Rogan reaching a diversity of audience so he can make more money, get more clicks, grow his audience. Pull from the online left, pull from the online right. The audience grows. Then you get big $10 million deals with Spotify, a publicly traded company. You have big guests on, like Bernie, controversial white supremacists on, money is made. Oh, it's just a podcast, some of you say to me. I see you on Twitter. No. This is not just a podcast. This is a corporately funded program boosted by algorithms with one of the largest audiences in the world. Bigger than Fox audiences. This is not about censorship. Understand the distinction between censorship and platforming. It is about responsibility. It is about editorial oversight of your show, Joe. Oh, but you're just a comedian. You're just a comedian. You don't need editorial oversight with the largest podcast in the world. Thomas Paine had editors. Everybody has editors. This is ridiculous. I have debated Gavin McInnes myself. I get that he is funny and that the shtick of comedy is what reels people into his dark mission. Eve, of Adam and Eve, she probably thought that about the devil too, right? He was charming. But Joe, you aren't some cellar-dwelling comic anymore. You have a crucial platform in our public conversation now. That's why it was such a big deal when you endorsed Bernie Sanders. And I'm glad you did. I just hope you're not moving some of that audience over to danger, to folks that have been deplatformed. Mila Yiannopoulos was deplatformed because he incited violence. Gavin McInnes just incited violence. And the Proud Boys do not belong on your platform. You are better than that. As recent as a few weeks ago, you called him, quote, a funny guy. In that clip, you saw it. Are you a comic? Or are you interviewing politicians and world figures with audiences larger than primetime news? Remember, Fox News calls themselves an entertainment channel. And that was always their defense. It's entertainment, it's not news. Just think about it, Joe. Would you have put Hitler's brown shirts, and I hate to use that analogy, but that is where we are right now. Would you have put the brown shirts on your show if it were in 1933? Well, the Proud Boys say proudly they stand ready to crush political opposition with fists and guns. They wear swastikas on their arms. They plow through peaceful protesters exercising their free speech. That is not America. It's not who we should be. That is Germany in 1933. These are those brown shirts. The only good thing about this ugly week was that Donald Trump made it very clear that the Proud Boys are his brown shirts. So no one can say later they did not know what was happening, including you, Joe. You know, there were plenty of people who understood what was going around them in Germany too. But not enough of them stood quickly enough to draw the line and say, no further, no further. Are your ratings, your ad sales, your viral clips worth not doing what is right? Are you okay with being a gateway to the far right through your comedy and your occasional agreement with leftists? Clearly you know what's happening, Joe Rogan, whether it is what you intended or not. And I know many of you like him, maybe even had an emotional attachment to Joe Rogan. I get it. Don't fall in love with your heroes, right? You know that line. But Rogan needs to take responsibility. He has extraordinary power in a time of extraordinary crisis. It can happen here. We just need to know how it happens and not be afraid of challenging ourselves. I know it is tough. I know our tendencies are to go tribal, us versus them. But we have to think deeper. We have to be able to hold two thoughts in our head at once. Thanks for watching and listening to The Nomiki Show. But remember to click like and subscribe on YouTube, and please share on social media. If you're not already a patron, please join us for as low as $5 a month on patreon.com/The Nomiki Show for early and special content. That investment makes a huge difference. We are not corporate media raking in the dough. It's really you guys that are keeping us going. So please consider being a patron. And to our current patrons, thank you so much. We are incredibly grateful to you. We also now have swag. So check us out on thenomikishow.com to get your mugs, your totes, and your stickers.